Savage Frontiers, the Modern Wild West. You were never meant to see Savage Frontiers. The Modern Wild West you were never meant to see. Tagline kidnappings, rituals, flesh markets. A global expose of crimes the world pretends don't exist, and how we end them. Part 1. The Mask of Civilizate. Chapter 1. The Disappeared Boy. My son was not sick. He was not hungry. He was simply gone. Fatima, mother of Ibrahim, abducted from Kaduna, Nigeria. The man who bought 12 skulls did not wear a mask. He carried a government permit. He walked calmly through the corridor of a regional medical college in West Africa. Under his arm was a satchel. Inside, 3 human skulls partially bleached, the jaws still intact. He had paid for them in cash. Each came from a morgue. None of them technically were accounted for. But they weren't all corpses. At least not when they disappeared. This is not history. This is now. We begin with a boy. His name was Ibrahim, 9 years old. He lived in a dusty town on the edge of Kaduna State, Nigeria. His mother, Fatima, sold roasted plantains near the market. His father had died in the clashes between nomads and farmers. Ibrahim helped his mother carry firewood and read the Quran by lantern at night. On the day he disappeared, he had gone out to fetch water. He never came back. At first, it seemed ordinary, at least as ordinary as a child vanishing could be in a place where no one expected help from police. His mother ran through the village screaming his name. The neighbors joined her. They searched the bush, the old quarry, the school grounds, and the sugarcane fields. Nothing. A week later, a corpse was found in a pit near a farm owned by a local politician. It was missing several parts: eyes, tongue, genitals, heart. The case was closed within a day. No autopsy. No suspects. A police officer simply wrote, "Death by unknown cause," in the logbook. Fatima was told not to ask more questions. But she did. For months. And what she found would fracture her faith in what it meant to live in a nation with borders, banks, elections, and no protection. The frontier never ended. We speak of the Wild West as a relic. Cowboys and bandits, dusty duels and gold heists. But in the shadows of modern cities, where the rule of law is ornamental and justice is a rumor, the Wild West breathes. And it does so with a new currency, the human body. This chapter begins in Nigeria, but it could be rural Brazil, Nepal, Haiti, Moldova, or the Philippine Highlands. The plot is nearly identical. Someone vanishes. The authorities shrug. Whispers begin. Rituals are blamed. Police are bribed. And silence descends. But these disappearances are not myth. They are a global pattern, intertwining the superstition of centuries past with the machinery of modern crime. In Kaduna, children like Ibrahim vanish by the dozens each year. Some are found. Most are not. In the town of Birnin-Gwari alone, 212 children were reported missing in 2022. Officially. The real number is almost certainly higher. Across the border in Benin, shrines operate in broad daylight. Bones are ground into powder. Blood is poured on altars. At the port of Cotonou, bags of human skulls have been intercepted, wrapped like yams. Each head destined for buyers in markets where magic is not metaphor. Who buys a child? Not always who you think. Yes, there are local cults. But many of the buyers are middle class. Politicians. Clergy. Businessmen seeking protection. In West Africa, belief in ritual power runs deep. A child's body part, especially from a virgin, is seen as a potent charm. The head to gain wisdom. The hands to increase labor power. The genitals to boost virility. The heart to attain courage. It is not madness. It is monetized belief. In 2019, a man was arrested in Oyo State with 23 human skulls in his car. He claimed to be a spiritual consultant for an oil magnate. He had receipts. In Ghana, a university laboratory was found purchasing bones directly from hospital staff, remains that belonged to unclaimed bodies. But investigations revealed something darker. Many of the bodies were never registered as dead. One NGO traced 4 to a nearby village where the families had assumed their loved ones had run away. They hadn't. What the law ignores, the frontier exploits. The frontier, in modern form, thrives wherever legal infrastructure breaks down or is too expensive for the poor to access. In countries with high corruption indexes and low forensic capacities, ritual murder is often classified as a superstition, not a criminal pattern. Authorities dismiss it as cultural, rural, or mythic. But it is strategic. Killers hide behind the ambiguity of belief. Prosecutors fear backlash. Witnesses vanish. Local media are threatened. And in the vacuum, a global trade flourishes. A recent United Nations report identified over 54 ritual murder cases in sub-Saharan Africa that crossed national borders. In one case, a trafficked boy from Togo was found dead in a hotel in Lagos. The room was paid for by a Kenyan passport holder who fled hours before. Interpol couldn't pursue him. There was no formal extradition treaty. He was never caught. What can be done? The myth of modernity must be shattered, not to incite panic, but to provoke change. 1. Strengthen forensic infrastructure in vulnerable regions. Mobile DNA labs, publicly funded autopsy teams, and transparent morgue databases can dismantle impunity. 2. Educate rural communities about reporting protocols and rights. Fear and ignorance remain the traffickers' greatest allies. 3. Decriminalize whistleblowing and protect witnesses. The brave who speak out are often punished more than the perpetrators. 4. Pressure governments via international frameworks. Foreign aid should not flow to regimes that protect ritual killers. 5. Engage local faith leaders. Without confronting belief systems that sacralize body part rituals, no legal reform will take root. Who's leading change organizations like Pathfinders Justice Initiative and Safe Child Africa have been documenting ritual crimes and providing support to families. In Togo, women of the Red Soil are retraining former ritual practitioners to become community educators. But they are few. They need support, visibility, and pressure applied in the corridors of power. Final note: Fatima never found her son's full body. What was buried was partial, sealed in a cloth, barely enough to fill a child's coffin. She says she still hears his voice at night. He tells me to keep talking, she says. He says, don't let them forget me. That is why this book exists. To remember, to reveal, to revolt. Because civilization is not a flag, a border, or a national anthem. Civilization is the absence of children disappearing without consequence. Until that is true everywhere, the Wild West is not gone. It is just wearing better clothes. Chapter 2. When the Sheriff is the Bandit. They were not afraid of the police. They were the police. Eyewitness, Veracruz, Mexico. In March of 2021, a convoy of 3 police trucks rolled into a small village outside Ciudad Victoria in Tamaulipas, Mexico. The villagers had seen the vehicles before. Their children played near the checkpoint. Their mothers sent food to the officers during long nights. They thought they were safe. By sunrise, 16 bodies had been discovered in the brush nearby. Burnt, mutilated, unrecognizable. All 16 had been under the protection of those officers. When the story broke, it was labeled as cartel violence. But internal documents later leaked to Preciso, a Mexican investigative outlet, revealed that the officers themselves, members of an elite anti-kidnapping unit, had handed the victims over to a local trafficking gang in exchange for territorial immunity. These officers had not failed the system. They were the system. And they sold it. The lawless law. The romantic myth of the Wild West often features a lawman too compromised to enforce justice, or worse, one who moonlights as the outlaw. In reality, we are still living in that world, where the badge often conceals the gun hired by the highest bidder. From Mexico's decaying police districts to Congo's corrupt military zones, from India's caste-aligned constables to Libyan detention center guards, the front line of law and order is often the first barrier to justice, and the last one traffickers need to cross. In Nigeria, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, became so notorious for torture, extortion, and murder that a national movement, #EndSARS, erupted in 2020. The stories were horrific. One survivor recounted being forced to lie beside the corpse of another detainee, while officers negotiated ransom amounts with both families over the phone. In Congo's Ituri province, armed groups fund their campaigns through the sale of body parts, often delivered with military escort. Reports submitted to the United Nations Human Rights Council in 2022 included testimonies that soldiers took bribes to provide security to known ritualists operating in gold-rich villages. Meanwhile, in India, the caste system quietly informs police response. In states like Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, Cases involving Dalit, formerly untouchable children, go uninvestigated for years. Bodies are burned before they are identified. Evidence is lost en route to labs. One teenage girl's rape and murder in Hathras district triggered national outrage. Not just because of the crime, but because police officers cremated her body in secret before the family could grieve. A case study in Haiti, the ransom syndicate Port-au-Prince, Haiti. In 2023, the number of kidnappings rose so sharply that local UN workers stopped commuting without military escorts. Entire neighborhoods were declared no-go zones. One victim, Jean-Claude, a 47-year-old taxi driver, was abducted in broad daylight. His family raised $5,000 for his release. 2 weeks later, Jean-Claude's wife was visited by 2 police officers in uniform who demanded an additional protection tax to prevent rearrest. The officers left with the money. Jean-Claude was never seen again. Later, internal whistleblowers revealed that officers at 2 Port-au-Prince precincts were running parallel criminal operations, coordinating with kidnappers to split ransom proceeds, and even using official detention centers as temporary holding cells for abducted victims awaiting payment. When asked how this was possible, one human rights worker shrugged. Here, the police are the gang. Why the uniform still persuades. In every one of these nations, there is a painful paradox. People fear the police, yet still turn to them. The uniform still carries the illusion of protection. Survivors often report the moment of betrayal not as the worst physical abuse, but as the psychological devastation of realizing the person meant to save them was the one profiting from their suffering. "I didn't cry when they hit me," said a survivor of ritual trafficking in Uganda. "I cried when I saw the badge." Why this keeps happening. This is not simply a matter of bad apples. The deeper rot lies in 3 forces. 1. Structural impunity. Officers are rarely prosecuted for complicity. Investigations are internal. Files vanish. Witnesses vanish faster. 2. Low pay, high risk. In many regions, law enforcement salaries are below subsistence levels. A bribe from a trafficker is not temptation, it's survival. 3. Embedded networks. In trafficking hotspots, law enforcement is often integrated into local economic ecosystems. Officers may have family members in the trade. Corruption becomes cultural. What can be done? Reform is not optional. It is the only shield between civilization and collapse. 1. Global licensing standards. Create international police accountability frameworks tied to aid packages. No reform, no funding. 2. Civilian oversight boards. Empower independent panels of citizens, especially from marginalized communities, to review police operations. 3. Open source evidence tracking. Use blockchain or encrypted cloud systems for storing case data. Prevent accidental deletions. 4. Whistleblower protection. Build safe channels, anonymous, encrypted, for officers and civilians to report internal corruption without retaliation. 5. Honor the ethical officers. There are still brave men and women who resist the system from within. Promote and protect them. WHO's leading change organizations like Accountability Lab are working in Liberia and Nepal to build transparency between police and citizens. In Mexico, Quinto Elemento Lab has exposed dozens of internal police collusions with cartels through data journalism. In India, Safe City runs anonymous reporting platforms that aggregate abuse data by neighborhood, pushing municipalities to act. In Nigeria, the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Program, ROLAC, has launched training reforms to change the culture of abuse in police ranks, starting with community courts and mobile rights clinics. Closing reflection. What does it mean when a child's killer wears a badge? When the man who kicks down your door also owns the brothel your daughter was taken to? What remains of justice when its guardians are the predators? This chapter is not an accusation. It is a mirror. And what we see in it will determine how many more names vanish into silence. The Wild West was never about geography. It was about unchecked power, weaponized fear, and the myth of law serving justice. We must stop asking, where was the law? And begin asking, who owns the law now? Until the badge no longer conceals the bandit, we remain unguarded. We remain frontier. Chapter 3. Cities with No Mercy. They say you're safe in the city, but here, evil doesn't hide in the forest. It wears cologne. It drives a Lexus. It lives 3 floors above you. Layla, Lagos, Nigeria. In the basement of an upscale condominium in Johannesburg's Sandton district, behind a mirrored wall that concealed a private elevator, investigators found a soundproofed room. Inside, a surgical table, a stack of surgical gloves, and a bin full of used organ-preserving bags. There were no licenses, no hospital records, no signs of forced entry. 2 weeks earlier, a teenage boy had gone missing from Hillbrow, a densely populated inner-city neighborhood known for its migrant population and rising crime. CCTV footage would later show him entering the luxury tower. He never came out. This wasn't the work of a cartel in the jungle. It was a well-oiled operation run by professionals, surgeons, brokers, and wealthy clients, all hiding behind the respectability of city life. Urban centers, long heralded as beacons of progress, have become staging grounds for the darkest crimes imaginable. Here, modern infrastructure doesn't eliminate brutality, it masks it. The illusion of civilization. We are trained to believe that cities offer safety. They have police departments, paved roads, CCTV, and smartphones. They have Wi-Fi and Uber. But none of these are shields against systemic violence when that violence is adaptive, intelligent, and dressed in business attire. From Lagos to Manila, from Karachi to Bogota, cities no longer offer sanctuary. They are marketplaces for human pain, operating under fluorescent lights and clean white sheets. Lagos. Ritual and real estate. In Lagos, Nigeria, the megacity of over 20 million people, ritual killings are not confined to forests. They happen in rented apartments, uncompleted buildings, and even gated estates. In 2022, an Uber driver was arrested for luring a university student into a short-let apartment in Lekki. There, he murdered her and harvested her heart. His phone records later showed multiple contacts with a spiritualist advertising wealth solutions. Days later, another arrest revealed a landlord in Festac who had converted the lower level of his duplex into a ritual slaughterhouse. The neighbors? They had heard the screams. They thought it was just deliverance prayers. Karachi. The bones beneath the mosque. In Karachi, Pakistan, the line between religious authority and criminal enterprise has blurred beyond recognition in some quarters. In 2018, authorities uncovered a trafficking ring operating out of a madrasa in the Karangi district. Orphans and street children were taken in under the guise of charity. When relatives came looking, they were told the children had run away. Bodies later discovered in a mass grave outside Hyderabad revealed the truth. They were being sold for ritualistic healing practices, an old folk belief linking children's body parts to spiritual protection against jinns and disease. The madrasa's imam fled the country. His student remains in custody, but trial proceedings have stalled for over 4 years. Manila. Live-streamed horror. In the heart of Quezon City, Philippines, police raided a cybersex den operating behind a legal call center. Rooms were clean. The staff wore uniforms. Clients were from Canada, the US, Australia. Victims? Children between the ages of 6 and 12, many of them trafficked from the provinces under promises of schooling. Platform used end-to-end encryption. Buyers paid in cryptocurrency. Some even requested custom scenarios involving simulated torture. The worst part, this wasn't an isolated case. According to International Justice Mission, the Philippines is now the world's leading source of live-streamed child sexual abuse. Not because it is more depraved than other nations, but because it has the digital infrastructure to sell suffering at scale. Johannesburg, where clinics become crypts. In Johannesburg, ritual killings are often connected with the Muthi, traditional medicine industry. While many Muthi practitioners operate legally and ethically, a growing fringe market traffics in human parts. In 2021, police arrested a Muthi vendor in Soweto, who was found with preserved hands, feet, and internal organs in glass jars. He claimed he was fulfilling orders from clients in the business and political sectors. Organized crime units believe a larger network connects rogue funeral homes, corrupt morgue workers, and high-ranking city officials who help bury the paper trail. The urban landscape here doesn't prevent horror. It enables it with discretion. Cities as ecosystems of crime urban centers offer unique advantages to traffickers and ritual killers. Anonymity. In a crowd of millions, nobody notices a van load of children. Send infrastructure. Roads, real estate, electricity. Everything needed to run a high-functioning black market. Digital cover, burner phones, VPNs, encrypted chat apps. Wealth disparity. Billionaires live beside slums. Desperation meets demand. City isn't the antidote to savagery. It is its upgrade. What can be done? Urban horror thrives on the illusion that someone else is watching. What if we started watching? 1. Community surveillance tech. Equip low-income areas with accessible civilian-run surveillance systems, owned by the people, not the state. 2. Property transparency laws. Force landlords and estate agents to disclose property histories and allow random civic inspections. 3. AI-powered abuse detection. Use machine learning to flag suspicious online transactions, fake social service accounts, and dark web interactions, then escalate to ethical review teams. 4. Revamp the Urban Witness Protocol. Establish anonymous reporting lines in cities with guaranteed protection. Reward informants. Shield their families. 5. Educate the public. Launch multimedia campaigns making urban residents aware of trafficking signs, suspicious rentals, and how to intervene without risking their lives. Who's Leading Change, eSafety in Australia, has pioneered real-time intervention tech for online child abuse. Balmy. Code for Africa in Kenya trains citizens in digital watchdog tools to track corrupt urban development. Manila Stop Traffic offers counseling and extraction for trafficking victims in metro centers. Lagos Urban Watch is a grassroots mapping initiative tagging ritual hotspots and reporting them anonymously. Closing Reflections cities were once bastions of enlightenment, art, law, governance. But under their polished surfaces lies a brutal truth. The same darkness that hides in forests, hides in glass towers. And it's harder to fight what hides behind a smile and a business card. We cannot let progress become performance. We cannot confuse skyscrapers with justice. Until the child crying behind the condo wall is heard, until the organs stolen under LED light are accounted for, we remain blind in the bright lights. The Wild West isn't gone. It just changed its address.